Welcome to the Prophecy Club. You know, we have had some really strange weather lately. Why is that? What is going on with the weather? Would you believe that there is a secret weapon that the Americans tried to perfect, but they couldn't perfect it? I understand that we have a basic math calculation in our understanding of math, and it will not allow us to calculate it out. However, the Russians don't have that problem. And the Russians have perfected this to the nth degree, and it may very well be, it certainly explains a lot of our strange weather. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about scalar wave. It was first invented by Nikola Tesla, and I'm about to have Bill Schnoebelen come on and tell you all about it, so I won't take all of his thunder. But the point is, this scalar wave can go around the globe, and it basically leaves one spot and then appears in another spot. It can make large amounts of the atmosphere very hot or very cold. Well, so what does that do? Well, you make something very hot, the very large amount of the atmosphere, and what do you cause? A tornado or a hurricane. Or you make it very cold and you bring in massive amounts of snow and ice and things like that. So that can really cause havoc in an economy and in a nation. And it is, let's put it this way, I'm not the only one that believes that the Russians have probably been using this on us and other nations for a long time. Then there's the other explanation about the birds. You remember, here a couple of years ago, there was reports of birds just falling, entire flocks, just falling out of the air, dead. They were dead by the time they hit the ground, okay? What is that? That can't be some disease. You can't get a whole flock of birds to die in mid-flight. And then, of course, we also had millions of fish washing up upon the shores of lakes and some streams. What is all that? Well, let me just explain. All of that can be caused by scalar wave. Scalar wave can destroy anything in the air, on the ground, on the sea, under the sea, any place on the globe, anytime they want, and here's the kicker, there's very little residue to let you know that this is what has done it. Matter of fact, there are a lot of people that believe that's what took out the Challenger, okay, scalar wave. But this information is really powerful and really important, so much so that instead of asking $30 for this DVD, you can get it today for only $15 by calling your Prophecy Club, 785-266-1112. More on that later. Now, Bill Schnoebelen in Russia's secret weapon to defeat America.
Scalar waves don't exist in our normal world normally. They are in the vacuum of space. They exist in the dimension of time. And since the vacuum of space exists everywhere, scalar waves can draw on vast amounts of energy. This is called energy from the vacuum, or zero-point energy. This energy can be transmitted faster, literally, than the speed of light. Now, Einstein taught that the speed of light is the speed limit of the universe. And what it is roughly 186,000 miles a second. Or, if you prefer, 670 million miles an hour. So that's a whole lot faster than you can go in your car, I'm sure. And the interesting thing is that if you were to say the word light, in the time it takes to say the word light can travel around the world 7 times. That's how fast it is. So it's very, very fast. But Einstein taught that you can't go faster than that. As we will see tonight, Einstein has been proven wrong in several ways. The way these scalar waves travel faster than light is that they go through hyperspace and go around regular space. Now, you'll notice here in this chart, you have this large white sphere. That is the universe, okay? And you see the red arrow, it's pointing to the surface of that big white sphere. That is space, just like if you think of a basketball. You think of the rubber or whatever is around the basketball, that's the space. That's where we live. That's where the entire universe lives, is in this thin membrane around this giant nothing. Okay? This is what Einstein postulated, and everything so far has proven him right. Now, the question you need to ask yourself, if the surface, just the line around the surface of that sphere is space, what's inside of it? What's outside of it? unspace. Now, this might bake your noodle a little, but listen. How long does it take to travel through unspace? No time at all. You can travel anywhere in the universe in a second if you travel through unspace, or as scientists prefer to call it, either subspace or hyperspace. Yeah, these words are not science fiction anymore, even though you hear them used in various science fiction movies, but actually this is a reality. They've determined this is true. So here's how this works. You notice down at the bottom of your screen, there is a scalar transmitter represented by point A. Let's say that's the Crab Nebula, which is millions of light years from Earth, and there's some nasty aliens on that nebula, and they are mad at that destroyer that's up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen that's floating somewhere in the Atlantic. They have scalar weapons. They fire their weapon instantly. It winks out of existence. It follows the trajectory of that red line on the screen, goes through hyperspace in about a second or less, and emerges right on top of that destroyer as a globe of light that then detonates with the near force of a nuclear explosion and blows the destroyer to kingdom come. Now let's bring this down to Earth. Suppose instead of that big white circle being the universe, it's planet Earth. And point A is Moscow. And they, for whatever reason, decide they're going to destroy that battleship that's in the Atlantic Ocean. And so they fire their scalar transmitter in a second or so or less. The same thing happens. There's no way of seeing this coming. Understand, there is no incoming fire. It's not like a cruise missile or something like that. It's just there. All of a sudden, the next second, it detonates and the thing sinks just with all hands on board. This is the nature of this weapon. Now, these next two slides are probably the worst, so bear with me. In the scalar model, time, which Einstein said is the fourth dimension, is actually compressed energy. So imagine being able to use both time and gravity as energy. It is energy which is compressed by exactly the same factor by which matter is considered compressed energy. Now, what does that mean? Well, again, Einstein, we always come back to him, he taught that everything that is physical is actually energy. And he had an equation for that. And the factor by which that energy is converted is the speed of light squared. Now, when you square a number, you multiply it by itself. For example, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is 25, etc. So you take a figure like 186,000 miles an hour, or a second rather, and square it, you've got a very large number. Actually, it's even bigger than that. This is probably the most famous equation in all of physics. Everybody's seen it, even if people don't understand what it means. Here's what it means. E equals mc squared. E is the energy that is released by any amount of matter multiplied by the speed of light in centimeters squared. Now, I don't even know what the speed of light in centimeters is. It doesn't matter. The point is, it's an enormous, enormous amount of energy. And that's what you get with nuclear fission. That's what you get with the atomic bomb or the hydrogen bomb. You have a small amount of fissionable material like uranium, cesium, plutonium, and you slam it together with explosive force. That's what they did with the original atomic bomb, and it creates a nuclear reaction which has a destructive power in either kilotons or, in the case of a hydrogen bomb, megatons of dynamite. A megaton of dynamite is 1 million tons of dynamite. So that's an enormous amount of energy. And that's why when we dropped the very primitive, by our today's standards, nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki back in the end of World War II, that blew up most of their city in each case. Now, there's another equation which is much more powerful but much less well known. This is the scalar equation for the conversion of energy. And what it is E equals delta Tc squared. Now, in physics and engineering, the delta, which is a Greek letter, means change. And the letter T means time. So what this is saying is the energy released by scalar weapons is the change in time times the speed of light squared. So the compression in time times the speed of light squared, and that releases just incredible energy. Now, people ask, what do actual scientists here in the United States understand about this? Well, Some of them know something about it, but most of them don't. Either it's outside of their frame of reference, or they're thinking inside of this little box, and they're not willing to think outside of the box. While I was on tour with this talk, I had a lady come up to me and say her daughter was just finishing up her PhD in quantum physics at a very prestigious California university. I won't name the university. She asked her about this stuff, and her daughter says, "Oh, that's impossible. It can't happen. That's totally impossible." She offered to give her, and her daughter's only like 25 years old. And usually you think younger people are open to new ideas. She handed her this book, said, "Would you read this book?" She says, "No, I don't even want to see it. That doesn't even exist." So again, remember, science is often just like a cult. If it's outside of what they believe, they don't want to know about it. So science in this country, the Defense Department knows about some not what are called non-conventional weapons. They know about lasers. Of course, big deal. Lasers have been around like forever. We had lasers when I was in high school, for heaven's sakes. We have particle beam weapons. Again, big woo, But most of us have totally missed the boat about this not-so-new weapons technology, which has been around since the 1960s. Recently, relatively recently, 1997, Bill Clinton's Secretary of Defense, William Cohen, said this, and this is one of the very few public statements by high-level people in the Defense Department. Others, meaning terrorists, are engaging in an eco-type of terrorism, whereby they can, notice this, alter the climate, set off earthquakes, volcanoes remotely through the use of electromagnetic waves. So there are plenty of ingenious minds out there that are at work finding ways in which they can wreak terror upon other nations. It's real. And that's why that's the reason why we have to intensify our efforts, and that's why this is so important. Now, I never thought I'd agree with anybody in a Clinton administration, but in this case, I have to give this guy a hearty amen. I hope they are following his advice, which he gave like 8 years ago. Now, these are a totally new reality in military combat. They can project electromagnetic or electrogravitic energy to any place on the planet at will. Distance is no deterrent. Since they're faster than light, the energy is projected to the target in nanoseconds, which is so quick you don't even know. It's less than a wink of an eye. Like these scalar weapons are therefore capable of destroying anything, anywhere. Land ordnance, in other words, tanks, jeeps, even entire military bases, naval vessels, and even submarines, and of course planes, jets, and ballistic missiles. They can be directed at an individual site or location. They can even be targeted to hit human targets, even in shielded rooms or underground bunkers. Now, imagine this. You could put the President of the United States 5 miles underground in a room that was lined with a foot of lead on all 6 sides, and they could still turn him into a crispy critter in less than a second. So any kind of shielding is meaningless. They can also be aimed at a pi wedge arc of the sky to take out large number of aircraft at once. So, for example, here we see the scalar weapon in the center of the horizon line. You know how the horizon appears to be a circle around you as you look at it. And if there was airplanes coming in there, you can see like between 11 and 12 o'clock on the chart. All they have to do is fire the weapon, and every airplane, every bomb, every missile that's in that range of that wedge would just drop to the ground and be totally useless. Then all I have to do is turn it a little bit and take care of the 12 to 1 o'clock, so to speak, then the 2 to 3 o'clock, and so on and so on. So the whole sky can be wiped out of any kind of incoming fire in just a minute or two with this kind of weaponry. To make matters worse, these weapons also can generate an electromagnetic pulse, just like nuclear weapons do. And I know many of you understand, because there's been articles about these in the newspaper and so on, that if a nuclear weapon goes off, especially in the air where there's nothing to impede it, it sends out this pulse that will instantly fry any computer, any microchip, like your cell phones, if you have a pacemaker, any kind of electronic device is basically history and irreparable at that point. Well, there is shielding for that. Like, for example, we're told in the Defense Department and the Pentagon and NORAD or whatever, they have computers that are hardened, that are shielded against this kind of EM pulse. But the problem is there is no shielding against a scalar EM pulse. So basically, If the Russians chose to do so, they could essentially turn off every computer in America with a flick of a switch. Tank warfare, totally obsolete at this point. I mean, if you have a tank that is out there and you hit that tank with scalar weapons, instantly all the men in the tank are going to die. They're just going to drop down dead. The fuel in the tank will explode. The weapons in the tank will explode. And all of the